Alright amigos, this is quiz number 4. On this quiz we are going to be doing box and whisker plots. So what it is we've got a set of data and it can be anything. I mean, these could be home runs, these could be heights of people in your class. They could be pretty much anything. Doesn't really matter. But you're going to have a set of data on your quiz. And what you're going to need to do is take that data and organize it in such a way that we can look at it and understand something about it. The financial industry often uses these box and whisker plots. Anyway, let's take a look at it. The first step we need to do is put these in order from least to greatest. So it looks like my smallest number here is 42. Then I've got a 43, and then I've got a couple of 48s. Looks like 48, 48. I've got a 50, 52, 56, 69, and a 70. Okay, so now that I've got them in order, I need to find what the middlemost number is, which we call the median. And so I just count from the edges: 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4. We have our middle one, which is 5 right there. Okay, so this one is my median. Awesome, love it. Now, I take this either half of this data that I have left, okay? And what I'm going to do is find the middle of those pieces of data. So I've got 43 and 48 right here. I don't have just one number in the middle, I've got two numbers. So what I'm going to need to do is add them together and then divide by 2. And when I do that, I end up with 45 out of this one. This other one, I've got 56. In fact, let me just show you the math on this so you can see it. I'm going to have 56 plus 69 divided by 2. And you'll recall in class I hammered on this a little bit, that you cannot go 56 plus 69 divided by 2 all at once in your calculators, or you're going to get the wrong number, because the 69 will get divided by 2 and then we'll add it to 56, because there's an order of operations with your calculator. So you got to be very careful to hit enter first and then divide by 2. Okay, so I ended up with 62.5. So I've got a couple of numbers here I'm focused on. I've got the 45 and the 62.5. Those numbers we like to call our first, so it's our first quartile, and our third quartile. And all this means is I've split my data into 4 parts. Part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. And at these different parts I've got 45, 50, and 62.5. Okay? So I've just split my data into fourths, essentially. And where those splits are, that's where our data is. Okay? Now, the next piece on this is actually graphing it so that we can see it. Now, because I have these 3 pieces of data, that's great. I'm doing a good job. But there's 2 more pieces of data that I need to get. And that is my smallest number and my biggest number. And what that does is it gives me the range. So here's my smallest number, there's my biggest number, and those are going to be the whiskers to my box. Okay? So I need to draw on my number line a line that's pretty decent, that covers all of these numbers from 42 to 70. Looks like I'm going to go by 5s probably. So I'll go 40 and I'll go by 5s and see if I can't cover the whole range of my data. That way when I, that's a 55, when I go to graph it, everything will fit nicely on there. Okay, so it looks like I made mine a little tight, but that's okay. Alright, so my first order of business is to put that smallest number on my graph. I put everything up above here so that we don't get it confused with our number line. 42 falls right about there. The next thing, I've got my first quartile. That's 45. I put that right above the 45. The next thing I have is my 50. That goes right above the 50. Next thing I have is 62.5, so 62.5 is right around here. And then my last number is 70. When I draw my box and whisker plot, I draw my whiskers out, and then I draw my box around the rest of the data, and one for my median. And that is it. That is a box and whisker plot. So that's it. Spots where you may have mistakes. When you, like we had in this situation up here, up on top, when you have two numbers, if you forget to average or you do the math mistake, you may not get your quartiles correctly. Other mistakes you may have when you get to the middle of your data. Let's say, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I get to the middle of my data trying to find the median, and I get 3 and 4, and so I average that out and get 3.5. When you go to find your quartiles, it's not just 1 and 2. You have to include 3 in that. And the reason why is 3 is not a median. Back on this other page, 50 was the median, so there's no reason to include it in our first quartile calculations or our third quartile calculations. But when we do this and we have to average it in the middle to get 3.5, 3.5 is your median, 3 is not, and 4 is not. So when you go to find your first quartile, you got to include the 3. When you find your third quartile, you have to include the 4. So don't mess that up. So right here, 2 would be our, our first quartile, and 5 would be our third quartile. Okay, and I talked about that pretty extensively in class. All right, amigos, that's it. Have a good one.